3 lessons I've learned from distance learning. So here they go. You're gonna wanna stay tuned because number 3 is good. Hey teacher friends, welcome. My name is Marquita, and here we talk about teaching strategies, especially for those low-income schools. We talk about planning for ELA classrooms, and we talk about just teacher life, because we not only want you to survive, but to thrive as a teacher and just a fabulous human. So if that sounds like you, go ahead and subscribe below. So, my school is split up into semesters, and normally our semesters change right after winter break. And so just as a best practice for me, I like to spend a little bit of my winter break thinking about what things went well first semester, what things went not so well, and then how can I make semester 2 just amazing, right? Great, based on the things that I've learned from first semester. This year, it was especially important because of this new version of teaching we call distance learning. So I thought it would be good to just take a moment and really reflect on what 3 lessons I've learned from distance learning. So here they go. So the first thing that I learned from first semester is to slow down. Now, I know you might be all saying like, yeah, of course, but let me tell you, I went into this year trying to keep as close to my pace as possible, as if we were in real school. Why? Because I just want to make sure my students are getting their full education, they're getting what they need. But I quickly learned that the pace must go much slower. I cannot control their learning environment, which means it's taking them a little longer to grasp skills and to get practice in. Also, just you think about transitions take longer when you're online. Think time and wait time take longer. It takes longer just to answer a question. You can't just speak. You've got to unmute yourself, possibly put your camera on, and then speak. All of those things are just taking us much, much longer. And so I now know that the pace of my lessons must slow down. Something that would have normally been 1 class period at this point is probably taking 2. A lot of the things that I would have considered to be 1 lesson worth of work and activities and things taking much longer because students are not in their same learning environment and learning conditions. And I recognize that. And so I'm doing much better. So this semester coming up, things are going much slower. Not at a snail's pace, but definitely slowing things down. And I'm really looking to see how I can take what would normally be a class period and am I extending it or pulling some things out just to slow down my pace. Even reminding myself to slow down when I'm talking because technology, who knows with technology, all of those things. So definitely first thing we have to remember is to slow down. Number 2 lesson that I've learned is to really be strategic about my unit length. As an English teacher, I definitely love the pace of about 4 to 6 weeks for a unit. That's what works normally for us in our classroom to either get through a novel or a text set. A normal unit, not gonna work. So definitely having to be more strategic about what texts are being included, what novels we're reading. I don't think this is the year to read the extra long novels. I would definitely see what novels would hit the same standards, but are a little shorter. So that way it's not taking as long to get through something. And this is even with students reading at home, and all kinds of things together isn't the same. So being really strategic about my unit length and how I'm pacing out my unit. So this semester, I've really taken a hard look at what we're reading and what skills we're practicing. And I'm looking to see what'll give me the most bang for my buck. So if it's not a text that's gonna help me to help us and our students practice 2 to 3 skills or hit on multiple standards at one time, it is not being included. And that normally is a best practice of mine, but especially so this semester as we continue on with distance learning. Also thinking about what skills are the essential skills. As teachers, we are always pressed to teach everything. There's never a time when you get through a year and you're like, I taught everything. It just doesn't happen, right? Especially so this semester. There's so many things that we want to hit on that we are probably not going to be able to hit on. And so what do? We've got to be strategic. So I'm being very strategic on what standards I'm hitting and how I'm teaching those standards and what skills, right? So being very strategic about what things need to be taught, how much practice I'm giving students, because I want to be able to give them a full, well-rounded year, but my time is limited, or should I say our time is limited. The last thing that I would say is a big takeaway from semester 1 is the power of the social emotional connection. Now, that has been probably the hardest thing to replicate while we are in distance learning. And it's so funny because I took for granted how much I was able to connect with students on a social and emotional level just from being in person. All these little things and skills that I developed as a teacher over the years that do not translate well to distance learning, obviously. But some things that I have learned that translate really well is the power of checking in before we start class. And so the first couple of months, I would do a really quick check-in sometimes, or I would kind of hit and miss. When I started being really intentional about my check-ins with students, it might be calling students by name as they are entering the classroom. Sometimes I'd ask them about the picture that's on their Zoom profile. Even just talking to them about what they're doing this weekend. We joke about how we're not doing too much this weekend, whatever the case. When I started being more intentional about those check-ins, sometimes even asking a question, students were much more willing to open up. And I'm talking about, I'm at a school where high school, students feel very insecure. Not all of them are willing to turn on their cameras, all kinds of things. So they are much more willing to open up when I am intentional about making those connections with students. Also, one thing that definitely helped me, their final project for semester 1 was a video project. It made them feel much more personal to me. I was able to see them. They were able to create something that felt really personal for them, and it just kind of humanized them in a way that hadn't been able to happen all semester long. So definitely having those moments of social emotional check-in, even if that means sometimes while other students are working, doing one-on-one check-ins, which I definitely started doing, right? Pulling a couple of students into the breakout room or one student at a time. And that way students feel more comfortable turning on their video, asking them a couple of questions. How's it going? What do you need help with? What's going well? Or just telling them they did a great job for something while you bring them into the breakout room. Those little things make a huge difference. And I definitely want to continue those things. I know one thing I'm going to for sure do this upcoming semester. When students check in, I will definitely have some kind of fun question for students to answer. Like I said, it's not like I never did that, but first semester it was kind of hit and miss. Second semester, it's happening every day. And it's gonna be a fun question, something really just connected to life and who they are as people, all those kind of things. Maybe what are you watching right now? Netflix. What's the name of your dog? Whatever the case, something like that. To just, that little bit of time makes a big amount of difference when it comes to later when they're participating in class and engaging in the work. And it humanizes them and humanizes me. And so we feel a little more like we're in this together. We kind of get it. And that is very exciting. So do not underestimate the power of the social emotional connection. Be very intentional about how you're making that connection, because we don't have those incidental moments anymore. Thanks for watching. Now let's continue the conversation. What have you learned this semester from distance learning? Put it in the chat. Let's talk, let's grow together. If you found this video at all helpful, or if you just liked it, go ahead and press that like button down below and make sure you subscribe so we can continue to be teacher friends. All right, you are amazing, and thank you for watching. Bye.